As I handed over my money to the barista, the edge of the note carved into my soft skin, making me grimace in annoyance. A single bead of blood held on my fingertip. I despised Papercuts. Despised the fact that after the initial sting, they faded from memory, hidden until triggered by something sour, or something spicy, or something salty. A lingering phantom of potential unexpected pain. Too close a mimic to real life, I suppose. Sighing, I strode back to my lonely apartment. A repurposed, dingy, industrial warehouse on the ground floor where I both lived and worked. A desk, a bed, a couch, a kitchen, some books, and a few plants. Home, bittersweet home. Picking up the unread mail on my desk, it occurred once more. A Papercut on the fingertip of my left hand. 2 in 1 day? I exclaimed out loud, cursing my luck. Figures. Increasingly annoyed, I crashed into my work chair, deciding to finish the last dregs of my open project, falling asleep not too long after. I am a creature of habit and schedule. Every morning, I wake up at 6:30, grab a breakfast sandwich from the closest store, get some work done, grab another sandwich for lunch, which I eat on a park bench, back to work, rounding up my night with dinner and Netflix. That morning, however, as I grabbed my paper-wrapped sandwich, I felt another cut on the back of my knee. At this, both of my Papercuts on my fingers throbbed in response, like 3 stings of an angry wasp. "What the hell?" I cursed out loud, getting a quizzical look from the store owner. Storming over, I slammed the sandwich on the counter in frustration. But as I pulled out a note from my wallet, slice. This one on my inner wrist. Yet again, each of the other cuts flared fresh. Startled, I abandoned the sandwich, running back home instead. What the hell was happening to me? Dashing over to my bookshelf, I grabbed a book. Slice. I grabbed a magazine. Slice. I touched photographs, a brown paper bag fished from my trash, toilet paper, and each time, slice. Each cut somewhere random, each cut triggering the others, each cut welling a drop of blood. Every time I touched paper, my skin tore open anew. Determined to identify the threshold of my predicament, I put on oven mitts and picked up a magazine. Slice. Double-mitted. Slice. I wrapped my double-mitted hand round and round with my bedsheets until it was thicker than 1 pillow. Slice. 2 pillows. This time, nothing. Meaning, there was a limit, but nothing workable if I ever wanted to be functional and handle paper again. Perhaps someone cursed me, I thought erratically. Was it the barista I snapped at for taking too long with my coffee? The homeless man I escorted away by the police because I was uncomfortable that he used the alley by my house to sleep in? The woman being harassed at the bus stop, whose plight I chose to ignore instead of defending? I ran through every scenario in my life, but nothing felt unordinary. It was just my average, tedious existence. I scoured the internet, looking for anyone with symptoms similar to mine. I scoured the internet, looking for anyone with symptoms similar to mine, searching and researching well into the night until I fell asleep on my keyboard, exhausted. Searing pain jolted me awake. Every paper cut on my body was burning, droplets of blood oozing from each of them. I looked blearily at the clock. It read 6 o'clock a.m. Why had I woken up so early? My body still felt drained. Unable to sleep despite my fatigue, I made a cup of coffee. When my mind finally settled, something clicked. 6 a.m. It appeared that for every 10 cuts, I lost 15 minutes of sleep. A slice of flesh traded for a fraction of peace. I told myself I should be grateful. We live in an almost paperless world, one easy to navigate without cash or letters. Yet, the thought wasn't comforting enough for me to do nothing. So I decided to head to my local clinic. One thing you forget about medical facilities are the forms. Endless pieces of bureaucratic hurdles to fill in with the minute of medical life. I refused, of course, and began a heated argument with the nurse about how I couldn't touch paper and had to see the doctor right away as a matter of urgency. My mouth was gaping open to scream in frustration. When just at that instant, the doctor walked out to the lobby. She looked at my panicked face and waved me into her room, ignoring the protests of the reception nurse.
"Tell me what's wrong,"
she said. I took a deep, steadying breath so that I could answer calmly and not appear any crazier than she thought I likely was. I have paper cuts all over my body that never heal. They appear randomly on my body anytime I touch a piece of paper. Much to my surprise, she didn't react or kick me out. Instead, she put on a pair of gloves, asking me to show her a few of my cuts. I pointed to one on my fingertips, one on my wrist, and one on the inside of my knee. She examined each closely, reaching into her drawer to pull out what looked like a magnifying glass. She even swabbed each one of them several times with a cotton gauze, pressing down to pick up blood. Finally, she took off her gloves and looked at me with a serious expression.
"I'm baffled. I can't see any cuts on you, but I can see drops of blood on the cotton swab when I pressed against the place you pointed at,"
she said, showing me the blood-spattered gauze.
"I need to talk to my colleague so I can establish what kind of tests to run. There's no need to poke or prod you without warrant, even if your case is perplexing. It doesn't appear to be life-threatening, so we can afford to wait."
At her words, I began to cry in relief. She handed me a box of tissues as I tried to compose myself.
Come in next week, and hopefully I'll have something more concrete for us to work on. In the meantime, I'll give you a mild sedative to help you sleep. I'm going to put my number in your phone so you can contact me when you need to. Just take it a day at a time. You don't have to do more than that, okay?
It was hard to remember the last time someone had been this kind to me. I nodded, handing her my phone in gratitude. I thanked her profusely. Medication and a plan of action was more than I had hoped for. That night, I took the first pills while I called in someone to check my apartment for mold. I had heard certain types of fungus can cause adverse physical reactions or hallucinations. The consultation fee was exuberant, but was worth the price of my sanity. They found nothing. So I continued to avoid paper, not wanting to push my luck. Then, 2 days later, while sitting on a park bench eating my lunch, it happened again. I felt a cut slice into the back of my neck, and I jumped up in shock. Frantically looking around to find the culprit piece of paper, I found nothing but leaves carried on the wind. In a rising panic, I sprinted back home. Dumping my clothes, I curled up on the floor, trying to soothe my anxiety away. In a short while, feeling a bit more self-possessed, and assuring myself it was probably errant debris, I decided to try and catch up on some work in an attempt to distract myself. As I sat down and put my hands on my work desk, I felt the flesh tear open on the bottom of my feet. I jerked away from my table. No. Oh no. Bench, table, wood. I would have screamed if I wasn't in shock. It can't be, I repeated to myself as a mantra, hands shaking uncontrollably. I walked to the kitchen and picked up my wooden salad bowl. Slice. I began to wail, deep, wrenching sobs at the helplessness I felt. I cried for hours and hours, finally falling asleep on my cold concrete floor. Upon waking, I steeled myself with new resolve. Pulling my mattress off the wooden slats of my bed, I dumped it onto the floor instead, repeating the process with my couch cushions. Then I went to the ATM, withdrawing as much money as I had. My regular store had wooden floors, a detail I'd never noticed, so I kept walking. At a large discount mart a few miles away, I stocked up on groceries and non-perishables. Ignoring the judgmental glare of the suburban mom behind me, I insisted on a plastic bag at the checkout counter. Then I holed up, surviving, if not living, counting down the days until my appointment. Perhaps she would have learnt enough to fix me. Then, yesterday, as I touched the metal handles to open my front door, a thin sliver of epidermis tore open in my inner thigh. I looked at the door handle. Metal. Surveying my apartment, my mind registered my fridge, my kettle, my pans. I thought about the subway and its grimy metal transportation tubes, of crawling cars choking the streets with their fumes, of handrails on staircases, of every door handle in every building. 15 minutes for every 10 cuts. At this realization, I sat on the floor and called the doctor. I told her what had happened, told her I couldn't come in, told her to call me if she found an answer. Then I hung up. Paper, wood, metal. What comes next is inevitable. Our world is plastic. It is everything, in everything, even us. I wonder how many people know that scientists have found microplastics in human beings, solid particles of man-made chaos creating nano-abrasions as they float into our bloodstreams. So here I sit, typing on my plastic keyboard while I still can, waiting.
Thank you all for listening to my telling of this tale. Please, if you would be so kind, leave me a like and share this video. And if you have not already, subscribe so as to listen to me more. May your nightmares be filled with terror, and may they be plentiful. Till next time, farewell.